GreenTech Festival audience. Welcome to this MAN electronic bus and welcome to this rolling class, a very special format of the festival. I'm really delighted to host the class here today. Of course, I have to say I'm really a big bus fan. My business development team and I running a bus show ourselves at Messe Berlin. And we focus on the innovation and the future of the bus industry. And talking about innovation and technologies, there's already a big range of products and solutions within the industry. And this leads me to our session today, alternative drives in a smart city context. Before I have the pleasure to introduce you to our speakers today, I would like to give a little outreach and overview what we will be talking about today. Everybody is talking about the smart city, but what is it all about? What topics belong to that new concepts of the cities? There are many surveys describing this future model of the city, but what is it all about and where are we by reaching those future model of the city? There's one thing for sure, mobility plays a major role in those new concepts. In order to reach the climate goals, the challenging climate goals in the EU, communities and cities really push electronic transport and infrastructure. The change is in full swing. So welcome to Rudi, MAN, head of the bus unit in Europe, and welcome to Stephan Duempelfeld, who is Director Business Development at DB Deutsche Bahn Bus. Welcome to this very special class.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
I would like to start with a question. What is your idea, or where are we right now? How smart and alternative are we in your perspectives? What would you say? And please feel free to introduce yourself a little bit more if you like to.
Oh, fine. So Rudi, responsible for the bus business worldwide here at MAN. And where are we now? So the best test is that we are driving already with a serial production an e-mobility bus, and I think this is a good confirmation that we are not talking PowerPoint. We really drive here this change to carbon-free future that we're all aiming for, and therefore I'm happy to have the interview. I'm really looking forward. Thank you.
All right, thanks Rudi for your statement. Stephan.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Kerstin. Well, how smart and alternative are we today? I mean, when you look at the news, for instance, you see more and more projects popping up, like on-demand mobility, autonomous driving, e-mobility, H2 mobility, and so on. But actually, really smart would be if we just would look outside of this pretty awesome electro bus, actually. If there would be no people driving in the cars and actually jamming the streets with their own cars with only just one person in it. That would be really smart. So in my impression, there's a long way to go yet. But actually we're on a good way and we already know the path we need to go to, but I think there's quite a bit to do yet.
All right. So sitting in this comfortable electronic bus is going to be a first step towards those goals, towards smart city concepts, I guess. Thanks for your individual assessments, the both of you. Rudi, the EU already set itself a very sophisticated target. By 2030, carbon dioxide emissions should be reduced by at least 50%. Yeah. So what are the answers of MAN to those targets and challenging goals?
Yeah, first of all, as mentioned, to provide the right product, as we have touched already here, and we're driving, as I mentioned. So for us, the future is clear. We're fully pushing towards e-mobility, but it's not only the bus, it's then also the infrastructure, the relation and the development together with our customers, the Regio, for example.
What a coincidence.
No, which is very important, because it's not only the OEMs who can drive this. This is together with, for sure, as mentioned here, the Regio, but also then the infrastructure. We see a complete change for depot, for the charging and everything. And this is now the task here to support and to be able. We see already that in the European market, since last year already 2,000 e-buses were matriculated, but still a lot to go, for sure, yeah, though it's not changed. And I think it's also important due that the costs at the moment are really high for the first investments, and here that the politics are really pushing and helping each other. I think the OEMs have already invested and developed, but to really drive in the cities to have these smart cities regarding e-mobility concerning bus, here we have something to do anyhow.
Right. And the cost is a good point because please allow me to follow up here and ask you, how do you support your customers or operators to take this switch or to manage this switch over to sustainable alternative transport?
Yeah, good point. As mentioned, it's not only the bus, it's a whole system around. And therefore, we established since 4 years a department called Transport Solution, where we, especially in those fields beside the product, support and develop with our customers together what to do to find the optimum of charging, the infrastructure, looking forward for the future, which kind of investment they need to have then a healthy business in the future. And I think this is our important pillars. We also learned the last 4 years together with our customers, Europe-wide, sometimes worldwide. All the other cities outside Europe also have this target to have a clear, clean, smart development in the cities for 2030. And this is, I think, an important pillar beside the normal product to have these relations and also support and changes with our customers.
All right, and I guess this is not only during the sales process, but it's it's continued during the whole time of
and
relationship.
Even it starts much before the sales process. I think 1 or 2 years when the tender comes out, and this is especially now in this turning point that the customers are also learning how to do, and therefore to have this change of information, demands, to understand each other in a better way.
All right. So is this a product you just provide for your within MRN and the in your group, or is it a product you provide to other manufacturers as well?
No, this is MAN internal, so one of the USB pillars that we have for our customers.
Okay,
so.
That's good to have. I just mentioned earlier on that transport, of course, plays a major role in terms of how does a smart city look like in the future, and it plays, of course, a major role to change transport in terms of changing or reaching the climate goals in the EU. Where do you see the biggest stumbling blocks right now, or maybe what are the chances from your point of view? So both of you, who wants to start?
Okay.
Thanks a lot, I can start. Well, considering that goal, like to reduce our emissions drastically, it requires a lot. It's in my opinion, it's a very ambitious goal actually that we are faced with. But it's actually also an awesome and right goal, because it's the right way to do so and to be sustainable with our environment, with our resources and all that stuff. Like, you were asking about the chances and stumbling blocks. Let me start a bit with what would you actually need to really lure people to get people use the public transport, which is actually, I think, one of the most efficient things you can do really to reduce your carbon footprint on an individual basis. Like, what keeps people actually from using us so far? I mean, it's when you look at the connection, when you live outside of the city center, there's maybe a bus or so running every hour, but only until 6 p.m. maybe, and if you miss one, you're stuck and you're doomed to wait there or to use your own car. You just won't do that. If you have to switch trains and buses and all that stuff twice, 3 times, whatever, you just won't do that.
Not really convenient.
You still stick with your car, and actually, it doesn't make sense to do so. But people driving like to their work, for instance, who live outside the city center, into the city center, where the most workplaces are actually, they actually cause that, like traffic jam, for instance. They have a huge share of all that traffic, like you see on the road so far, also now. So you have to get them. And this this you have to do with an integrated perspective. You have to offer them mobility that really meets their needs and demands from door to door. You have to have an integrated view, and that's actually one of the main chances, and also one of the main stumbling blocks I see so far. And the chance is that we really create, in order to reach that ambitious goal, a new mobility which is really seen from door to door and also created that way. So people don't have to worry about, I'm not going to use that public transport because it's so damn complex and all that stuff. No, you just go because it's easy.
Easy is a good point. Rudi, is there something you would like to add on that question?
Yeah, I think you have said, I think the main point, so easy is important, yeah, to simplifying the business, not only for our direct partners, for the whole people in the world, in the cities, to make it easy, to use it easy. Therefore, data exchange is important, yeah, that everybody have each time, whenever he wants this, when the bus comes, whatever transportation comes, to be attractive. Clean safety is also important, I think, yeah, because sometimes, depending on the cities, have fear to use public transport. This is also an issue, but I think with this smart city solutions and intermodality that we touched already here, this is important, that this is connected with all the actions, and therefore again data business is so important. And finally is a sustainable transport, clean, safe, emission free, and very easy to use. Come back to the world.
All right, and this will persuade people to get into the bus and leave their car where it is, or better not having a car anymore, for example.
Exactly.
This is actually already the switch to the customer perspective, Stephan. I would like to address the next question to you. In general, the car is still often, as we said, number one means of transport in cities, but in rural regions, for example, most of all as well. So what is required to really make public transport so attractive that everybody won't, with the car any longer?
That's a very good question, actually. I just touched, I think, 1 or 2 points in my previous answer about that. You need to rethink and rebuild the mobility as it is today, because with the current mobility design, the car will be too often the preferred choice for so many people. And I think everyone I know raised, for instance, or living in a village knows that issue, that you actually feel abandoned when you try to use public transport and you go by car. As soon as you're old enough, for instance, that's the typical way actually to go.
It's so convenient and always available, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And actually, it's not the price. We often focus on the price, like for public transport, for instance.
So what is?
The thing is the offering is the most challenging and the most decisive factor, actually, in this calculation, in my opinion. And this is also like indicated by studies conducted throughout the last years.
All right.
So you have to really think and design mobility integrated from door to door, and you also have to connect and think together like rural regions and city regions, because people, for instance, when you take a look at the cost of living inside city centers, it's getting higher and higher, and more people actually have to seek out the more greenish environments, like villages outside or smaller cities, for instance, and you have to think those aspects together.
So how to connect the rural areas and the smart cities, yeah. And Corona, gave this a really big push, because in times of home work, everybody explored the surrounding and the outsides of the cities to live and work. So maybe this is a trend. This will not be stopped in the future.
And actually, what's really important in that factor is that mobility needs to be considered and designed locally. You cannot have like a blueprint, for instance, that you roll out throughout the whole German territory or European or whatever. It's individual, exactly. Like what we do as DB Regio Bus actually is we of course know that area, since we are like a huge provider and we are literally everywhere in Germany. We analyze like mobility streams, for instance, passenger data, what's going on with the current public transport, also in connection with the rail. You know, you also have to consider that piece, like from street mobility to rail mobility. Also maybe micro mobility, which is an important part too.
Exactly.
And then you start coming up with improvements. Like for instance, you add a flexible like traffic or transport, like on-demand services, for instance, to a line-based service if it makes sense, if it gets more people into your buses, for instance, and it's more attractive, of course, for them. Then you start thinking about how could you do that even more like alternative in terms of saving carbon dioxide. Like e-drives, for instance, and autonomous driving, and whatever makes sense. So, and then of course you put together like a big puzzle out of different mobility like aspects, and in order to really have and design a mobility that is really attractive for those people, and they are really willing to use that.
What about technology? Can technology help to create those on-demand and sophisticated products?
Yeah, technology plays a very important part in that one. I mean, what's the difference between, I don't know, 30 years ago maybe, or 20, and now? It's the technology piece, and that everyone has their own smartphone, smartphones in their pocket, of course, which gives you access to those people, and you have to appear on those smartphones. You make that access so easy and so intuitive that they are like, that they can just lean back and enjoy the ride, you know, and they just reach their target stress and hassle-free, of course. That's an important piece, and also the question of how do you really optimize your, for instance, cost footprint. Like when you take a look at like cost, for instance, per person in public transport, you can get better when you think about autonomous driving, for instance, which gives you further efficiency boosts and potentials. And of course, always the question, what kind of technology, like in terms of drive, like electric or H2, for instance, makes sense. So yeah, it does play an important part.
Do you partner with data providers at Deutsche Bahn? Do you find exciting?
Actually,
or do you develop your own products?
I think that those times might be over, that you really are able to develop your own products and you meet everything. Mobility is a very, very complex thing, an easy thing as well, like on the same page, which is a little bit odd. But I mean, you cannot design mobility without partners, and so I'm really, really happy that we have that strong partnership with MAN, for instance, where we really work on new technologies, new projects, which will bring additional value to our clients, of course. But we also are constantly seeking like startups, like tech companies, like manufacturers, for instance, or our public authorities, which are our like major partner. These are our customers, actually.
Not to forget,
because these public authorities define what mobility looks like on a local basis or regional basis or whatever. And so you have to really get those people together and start thinking about what does make sense. How can you innovate mobility? And I'm so excited to see since a few years, actually, so many ideas and fresh ideas and fresh minds and thoughts coming into that mobility sector, which will boost us, actually, and we will benefit from that.
Right, sounds exciting. And actually this leads me to the next question, Rudi. Operators are often in that conflict, you know, on the one hand to provide affordable transport, but on the other hand you meet an increasing demand on more convenience and individual products. Do you partner as a manufacturer? Do you partner with operators in terms of product development, or to in the end convince as many people as possible to leave the car and change to sustainable transport?
Yeah, okay. This, I think, as we touched and discussed here, especially now in this transformation period, and as mentioned already, that we can't do it by our own, so we need partnership with suppliers here in different kind of cases in charging and whatever to provide the whole system. Then what already touched here, we need more exchange towards the market, because the development is so speedy That it's not like in the past, we have this diesel bus, it's running, everybody knows what's going on, but we have so many different actions here and demands, and to speed up and to make it really attractive, that what Stephan mentioned before, that people are going with a smartphone, everything is paid, they think easy again, a very important word, because the easiness and the sympathetic, to have public transport is sexy and to use it easy. It's so important that we have this exchange with our partners for sure, and then to bring it really on reliable products. This is an important one.
Right. Stephan, we talked about it earlier. Smart cities, this is a complex thing. So apart from transport, who do you think should get to the table to create such a smart city? What is it above transport? Because today you sometimes get the impression, that every part of the society or of a city is being developed isolated. So what is it about? What belongs together?
Mobility is something you just cannot avoid or deny. Whatever, mobility is a daily thing. Yeah. It's essential for literally anything you do, and so mobility is a backbone. And when you take a look at actually what causes mobility, it's like something you want to go to. It could be an event, for instance. It could be your work, your friends, a restaurant, culture, whatever. So you need to think that, because mobility is a backbone, a major one actually. And we talked about making that easy and making everything accessible through mobility. Like experience your daily life, your whatever social life through mobility. That's one very important aspect, and those different players you can think of there should be actually on a table, especially when considering like a city or whatever context, community context, for instance. You need to get also those people responsible for the street, for instance, for the street planning.
City planning,
Exactly, the quarter planning, like for instance, how should a quarter look like? You need to have...
What about energy?
Exactly, you need to have energy providers, for instance, and all those partners, because...
Or telecommunication infrastructure.
Yeah, as you mentioned, exactly. So it's very, very important really to not keep it in a closed shop, that mobility of tomorrow and the day after. It's important to really have an open table and to invite like all those major players and everyone who has good ideas to the table to contribute.
Would you say something you want to add? Or?
Yeah, exactly. And we know this mobility will increase. We know the numbers by all the cities worldwide. And if we ask them how much increase you want to your customers who will be transported, I think a lot of cities said at least 30%, even 50%. So this will increase. And the main challenge we touched is also to combine this with a rural and suburban connection. Because to do this and to provide this for the city centers, not done 100% will be, but to connect it with the rural environment, this is the huge challenge.
And as we just said, it's all about individual concepts. There won't be one concept for being applied for every region and city. All right. Yeah, actually, we're nearly at the end of our class, and maybe we started with a status quo. Maybe we could end with another question, or last question to both of you. What is your vision or your impression or your hoping for the green, sustainable city of the future? Rudi, do you want to start?
Thank you. Yeah, sure. So the vision is, these fancy drawings that you have these clean cities, everybody goes easy, smartphone connected, interconnected, a lot of another information that you can use during the mobility time for other things. And for sure, 100% renewable energy used, all these things. We haven't touched so much this point, but this is important, well connected wherever he wants to go. And then you have really then for the individual tourism actions, then you can use your car or whatever it's called then in some years.
Yeah.
Mobility, transportation, action, or whatever.
A vehicle in a way, yeah.
Whatever, yeah. And this is a huge challenge, and it must be then safer, less noise in all the cities. This is what we're aiming for.
All right.
The clear footprint, and then beyond 2030, don't stop, and then really reduce the CO2. And for sure, I have to say, hopefully with a lot of MAN vehicles. Thank you. All right,
This
here
is
we
a
go.
perfect closing word from your side.
Must. All right. Sorry.
Stephan, what about you? What is your vision?
My status quo ended with we're on a good way, good path, but actually we are quite not there yet. But when you take a look at the time 2030, for instance, or after that, my vision is that wherever I live, inside the city center, outside, wherever, it doesn't matter. I really don't have to worry about how I'm gonna get to my work or to wherever I want to go to. My mobility will be there, like when I need it, how I need it, and how I want it. And yeah, it will just get me there pretty safely. Maybe might go into the city center and I will enjoy the vast public and very green space which was freed a few years ago by all those parking and driving cars.
So a lot of urban space for everybody.
Exactly,
Yeah.
urban space for everybody without, as you just mentioned, which I really share and I want to achieve in the end, pollution and noise-free environment where you can hear the birds maybe sing a song or two.
Oh, what a nice impression. Thanks a lot to both of you. We have already come to the end of this session. Thanks to the GreenTech Festival for having us. Thanks for the opportunity to have this interesting class on enrolling MAN Electronic Bus Alliance. City bus, is that right? All right. Thanks to Stephan, thanks to Rudi to sharing their thoughts with us today.
And I'm sorry for that interruption. Thanks a lot to our awesome driver. She's driving really nicely, and you don't even feel the movement. It's very relaxed.
That's true. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you from my side too.